Hi everyone, in this video we will be discussing about the features of Strace, which is a Linux utility to inspect and monitor the system calls in Linux at the kernel level. So for this particular video we will be using this particular spyware, and well, getting started with the Strace. To use strace, it is a pretty simple method that you just have to type strace followed by the file name. But for this particular scenario, we will be making use of couple of arguments, because now this spyware sample checks for some particular arguments during the execution, because it looks for the default network settings to execute itself, and if there's no provided network settings, then it will not execute its malicious behavior. So for now, we can see that it showed the error message because the following arguments were not provided. And using this, from this information, we can conclude that this particular spyware did not execute its malicious uh, behavior, because it first checks for the access token and the root access arguments to be passed during the execution. So now there's a safer way to make the analysis. So what I did for this time was to create a dummy network. So since this spyware checks for the arguments to be passed to make sure that it is running in an authentic network so that it can use its malicious payload, to deal with this situation, what I did was I created a dummy network, and for the dummy network I used a couple of commands. So I use these commands. We will not be using this command since we are already in the downloads directory, but I use all the commands which I already run in the background. These commands are used to create a dummy route and block the internet outbound and start a TCP dump, a fake TCP dump, so that we can convince this malware, the spyware, that it has been running in a normal network so that it can show us its malicious code. So now let's see what the same command does after providing it the access token and the fake route that we created for it. And we can see that it shows us a non-stopping, it is like trying to connect to the Tor browser, and it fails and then it retries. So this shows us the indicator to the C2 communication, how this spyware makes use of the Tor browser to hide the actual IP address of the attacker, and how it tries to establish a C2 communication as soon as it realizes that it is working in a normal environment, a normal network environment. Now we can make use of some couple of commands to get a better understanding of what's going on. So we can extract all the connect and socket lines using the following command. It gives us all the connect socket information about this program. And moving further, this following command can show us all the files that were open using the indexing. And we can see that the suspicious spyware sample made use of the following files, and how it used the configuration stored in the fake route that was generated by our dummy network and stuff. So in conclusion, we learned that basically this demo was a controlled demo of showing how a malicious software, malicious spyware can behave in the presence of a normal network or a dummy network, how it checks for the arguments in the command line first without actually executing its malicious payload, and it will only execute its malicious payload once every parameter is perfect. In this case, that was the dummy network that we created to fool it, to convince it that it is running on a normal network, and that's when it shows actual malicious spyware behavior. And if we also just use another strace, this command, it will just show us a summary of all the system calls that were taken, and the number of calls that were made, and the time, and all the useful information that we might need for the further analysis. And that's all. Thank you.